All right, ladies and gentlemen, lesson 4.3, we're going to estimate with percentages. And one of the things about percentages a lot of times is when you're estimating, it's not as easy to use the percentage itself as it is to use the equivalent fraction. Okay, and so you'll notice on this first slide here, I have some of what we call the benchmark percentages and their fractional values. And then on the next slide, I have a few more of them. And a lot of shortcuts actually exist if we can use these percentages and their fractional values to our benefit. For example, I'm actually going to start here with 50%. 50% is a half. Well, if I'm trying to find 50% of a number, I just simply divide it by 2. I cut it in half. Same thing with 33 1/3%. That is equal to 1/3, sorry. Take the number, whatever it happens to be, and divide it by 3. 25% is a fourth. Divide by 4. Okay, so those are some common ones that we run into. And we can also take some of these ideas, these 3 ideas specifically, and find other ones. For example, 66 2/3. Well, it might be a little bit harder to work with 2/3, but realizing that 2/3 is twice as large as 1/3, 66 2/3 is twice as large as 1/3. I can divide by 3 and find a third and then double it. So a lot of times if I'm going to find 2/3 of something, I'm going to figure out what is the value, what is it at 1/3, and then multiply it by 2. Okay, so I'm not actually going to use the 66 2/3 itself. I'm going to use the 33 1/3 and then double it. And I can use that idea for a lot of concepts. I'm going to go back here as well. 10%, actually going to start there. Because one of the things is when I take 10% of something and I multiply it by 1/10, the shortcut actually in many cases is to move the decimal one place to the left. Because that's what happens. When I divide a number by 10, the decimal in the number will move one place to the left. So if I know that, I can use that shortcut to my advantage. Okay, 20%, which one of the ones I did not put on here, and I'm going to write it in, is divide by 5, is a shortcut. So if you have a number, divide, it's supposed to be an E. So if you have a number that will divide evenly by 5, one of the things, if you're trying to find approximately 20%, is you can divide the number by 5. Another option that you have, 20% is twice as large as 10%. So if I find 10% of the number by moving the decimal one place to the left, I can double that value. So take 10% and multiply by 2. Now I have 20%. Similar idea with 5%. Well, one, you could divide by 20. Notice these denominators tell me what I'm dividing by. So if you have a number that divides by 20 evenly, you can do 5% that way pretty quickly. Or I can take 10% and I can cut it in half to give me 5%. So that's one thing you'll notice that you can do, is I can take half of whatever the 10% value is. Also, and we're going up here, if we need 1% of something, is I can take, just like with 10%, when I divide by 100, the decimal actually moves 2 places to the left. And 1% is good when you're going into multiples of 100 and so on. These are some of the common ones, and we can also combine them. Like if I want 15%, I could find 10% and 5% and put them together. If I want 80%, I could find 10% and then multiply by 8, and that would give me 80%, and so on. And so I'm going to use some of those things as I go along here. And I'm going to try to give you some options as we go through. But one, when we're estimating, similar to previous sections, please round things off. In this example here, example 1, do not use 48%. Not when you're estimating. Do not use 79%. And when we are estimating, please do not go multiply by 0.48. Okay, if I want the exact answer, yes. But 2, use your shortcuts. 3, combine your shortcuts if necessary. So what I'm going to do here is, again, we're rounding things off. I am not using 48%. I am going to go to 50% here. And I am not using 79%. That definitely rounds to 80. And again, what is my shortcut for a half? Well, my shortcut for 50%, 1/2, is to divide by 2. So in this particular case, I'm simply going to divide 80 by 2. My answer is 40. Okay, close enough. The approximate value of 48% of 79 is around 40. Again, it's just an estimate. We don't care about it being exact. 36%, okay? I have choices here, and the reason I have choices here is 36% is between a couple things. One, it's very close to 33 1/3%. Okay, so that is an option. Or the other one is it's close to 40. Now I don't have a benchmark for 40, although I could take 10% 4 times. Okay, so if I find 10% and I multiply by 4, that would give me my 40% value, which, and the reason I say that, again, what is the shortcut for 10%? Well, that's to move the decimal 1 place to the left. So if I move the decimal 1 place to the left, that's basically 8, 8.2. I'm going to round that off. So that's basically 8. Okay, so 10% is 8. If I multiply by 4 then, that will give me 40%. I am around 32. Okay, so that is a choice. Now again, I've also said we could, let me do this, we could go 33 1/3%. Well, in that case, that is 1/3, or divide by 3. Now, if I'm going to use this method here, I don't want to use 82, because 82 doesn't divide by 3 evenly. 82 is close to 81, though. 81 does divide by 3. Now, you have a choice of how you set this up. You could multiply the fraction and do cross reductions, or you could go down and do long division. In some cases, I guess it depends on your preference. Okay, 3 goes into 8 twice, that's 6, and I subtract, leaving me 2, dropping my 1. 3 into 21 is 7, 7 times 3 is 21, it ends right there. Okay, or you can cross reduce this, and either way it's going to give you 27 as a solution. Okay, so here's the thing, I know my answer is going to be somewhere between 27 and 32. The reason it's low here is because we went below 36% there. The reason that it's above over here, it's bigger, is because we went over 36 there. So technically my answer is probably somewhere in the middle of these two. So CamSports is offering 20%, so we're going to apply this to an actual thing. So CamSports is offering 20% of a basketball that costs $19.99. I'm going to tell you right now I'm not using $19.99, I'm using $20. The same basketball costs $14.99 at Hoops Haven. Which store offers the better deal? Question mark. So Hoops Haven, it's $14.99. Basically, it's $15. The question is CamSports with their 20% off going to be the better deal? Okay. Now, so we're basically working with a $20 basketball. Now, you have a choice. Okay. 20%, if we want to go straight to 20%, is basically divide by 5. Okay, because 20%, as you recall, is 1/5. 1/5 is divide by 5. Well, 20 divided by 5 is $4, so the amount of discount is $4. Well, 20 minus 4, the discount is $16. Okay, so at CamSports, you're gonna spend $16. Where's the better deal? Well, it's definitely, in this case, at Hoops Haven. So that is one of your choices. The other one that you could do in this case, you could have gone, here, let me change colors and go over here. You could have gone 10% twice. Okay, now 10% of $20, move the decimal 2 places to the left, is about $2. But I want 20%, so if I multiply 10 by 2, that gives me my 20. So if I multiply 2 by 2, that gives me 4. So 20% is $4, and you'll notice I still subtract it out. Either way, it's $16. And either way, it's cheaper to go to Hoops Haven. So we can also do larger fractions, or percentages, using our fractions. Again, you have to sort of determine how you want to deal with this. First thing, I'm not using 67%, I'm using 70. And how you want to use 130 is up to you. You could go 100 plus 30%. You could even go to 25% if you wanted to. I think if it's me, I would go 10%, 13 times. Okay, so if I find 10%, and 10%, well, that's 7. If I move the decimal one place to the left, that's 7. So if I multiply by 13, 7 times 13, that gives me my solution. So 3 times 7 is 21, placeholder. 1 times 7 is 7. I add them together, you'll notice I've got 91. Okay, and so this is where I basically combined 10% 9 times, or not 9 times, 13 times. And so it's around 91. And so, or you could have went 100 plus 3% or something like, or 30%, something like that. 82% of 19.6. Again, if it's me, I'm probably going 80% here, at least to round off to. I'm calling this 20, and I'm going 10. 10% is so useful. It's crazy. 10% 8 times. Okay, because 10%, if I move the decimal one place to the left, is 2. Okay, so if I then multiply by 8, 16, and I'm done. So 82% is of 19.6 is around 16. Close enough for government works, as they say. You and your family go out to eat. The bill is $33.35. Estimate the total amount of the bill if you add 15% for tip. 15%, a good one I like to do when I do this is to go 10% plus 5%. And again, you can round things off. And the reason I like this when we're doing decimals is all I have to do is move the decimal one place to the left. So 10% is approximately $3.30. I'm even going to round that off. Okay. 5% would be half of this. Okay. Again, 5% is half of 10%, so 5% has to be half of this. Well, yeah, you might have to sort of break this down in your head and go, okay, $3 itself is about, or is $1.50. The 30 cents part is 15 cents. Okay, so you're talking approximately $1.65 to get your 5%. Okay, so if I now add my $3.30 and my $1.65 together, which even that is it. That's $3.95, or sorry, $4.95. Okay, it's basically $5. So the tip itself is approximately $5. All right. So if I then, so that just tells me then if I take my $33.35 and I add $5 to it, I'm at approximately $30 or $38, sorry, and 35 cents. And again, a lot of times you will just estimate your tip anyway and be close. So if you're around 38, 35, that is approximately the price plus the tip. All right, practice time. Please, again, use your benchmarks, use your shortcuts. Do not set up and multiply by 0.48 and 0.72 and all that stuff for your percentages. Use shortcuts, use shortcuts, use shortcuts. Good luck.